The person who tucked me in at night was the same one building the prison cell with my name on it, and I helped her do it. I need to tell you something that still makes my hands shake when I think about it. This isn't one of those stories where you can see the twist coming from a mile away. This is about how the person closest to you, the one you trust with your life, can be the architect of your destruction. And the worst part is, you'll hand them the tools to do it with a smile on your face. Hi, my name is Daniel, and 5 years ago, I lost everything in a single moment. Not in the way you might think. I didn't lose it to a fire or a robbery or some random act of violence. I lost it to something far more calculated, far more cruel. I lost it to my sister, but let me start from the beginning, because that is where the real horror lives. In the ordinary moments, in the kindness that felt so genuine you would never question it. I was 23 when my parents died. It was a car accident on Interstate 40 during a winter storm. Black ice. My father lost control, and the semi-truck behind them could not stop in time. They said it was instant, that they did not suffer. People always say that at funerals, do they not? Like it somehow makes the permanence of death easier to swallow. It does not. My sister Amanda was 28 at the time, already established in her career as a financial consultant. She had the good job, the nice apartment downtown, the put-together life that made our parents proud. I was still fumbling through community college, working part-time at a hardware store, living in a cramped studio apartment that smelled like old carpet and broken dreams. When our parents died, Amanda stepped in immediately. I remember standing in the funeral home, surrounded by people I barely recognized, all of them offering condolences that felt hollow and scripted. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of black clothes and pitying looks. And then Amanda put her hand on my shoulder, leaned in close, and whispered, "I've got you. You're not alone in this. Family first, always." Those 3 words became our mantra. Family first, always. She handled everything after the funeral. The estate, the paperwork, the endless phone calls to insurance companies and lawyers. I was barely functional, moving through each day in a fog of grief so thick I could hardly see my own hands in front of my face. Amanda told me not to worry, that she would take care of it all, and I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my big sister. She'd always looked out for me. 2 weeks after we buried our parents, Amanda showed up at my apartment with boxes and a plan. "You can't stay here," she said, looking around at my dingy studio with barely concealed disgust. "This place is depressing even on a good day. I have a spare room. Move in with me, at least until you get back on your feet." I hesitated for maybe half a second before agreeing. The truth was, I could not stand being alone anymore. Every night in that apartment felt like being buried alive. The silence was suffocating. The memories were everywhere. So I packed what little I owned, and I moved into Amanda's spare bedroom with its clean white walls and the window that overlooked the park. She made it feel like home immediately. She cooked my favorite meals, the ones our mom used to make. She left little notes on the bathroom mirror in the mornings, things like, "You're stronger than you think," and "Today will be better." She would sit with me on the bad nights when the grief came crashing back like a tidal wave, just sitting there in silence, her hand on my shoulder, letting me know I was not alone. Looking back now, I can see it for what it was. She was building trust. She was making herself indispensable. She was studying me, learning exactly how broken I was, exactly how much I would rely on her. She was setting the trap, and I walked right into it with gratitude in my heart. 3 months after I moved in, Amanda sat me down at the kitchen table with a stack of papers and a serious expression. "We need to talk about Mom and Dad's estate," she said. "There are things that need to be handled, and I need your help with some of the paperwork." The estate was not much. A modest life insurance policy, some savings, the proceeds from selling their house. It all came out to maybe $200,000, split between Amanda and me. But there were forms to sign, accounts to close, legal documents that made my head spin just looking at them. "I know this is overwhelming," Amanda said, sliding papers across the table to me, "but I'll walk you through everything. I just need your signature here, and here, and here. I'm setting up accounts to manage everything properly. Trust accounts, investment portfolios, all the stuff that will help make sure this money lasts and grows. Mom and Dad would want us to be smart about this." I signed. Of course I signed. I trusted her completely. Over the next year, there were more papers. So many more papers. Amanda would come home from work with folders tucked under her arm, and we would sit at that same kitchen table, and she would explain things in that calm, patient voice. Business documents, tax forms, investment agreements. She made it all sound so reasonable, so necessary. "We're setting up an LLC," she explained one evening. "It's for tax purposes. It'll help protect our assets and give us some financial flexibility. I need you as a co-owner for the structure to work properly. It's completely standard." I signed. "This is a loan application," she said another time. "We're leveraging some of the estate assets to make investments that will pay off in the long run. The interest rates are incredible right now. It's basically free money if we're smart about it." I signed. "These are banking documents. I'm consolidating some accounts to make management easier. Your name needs to be on these for the transfers to go through smoothly." I signed and signed and signed. Every time, Amanda would explain it all in that reassuring way, would squeeze my hand and say, "Family first, always. I'm doing this for both of us. I'm making sure we're taken care of." And I believed her. God help me. I believed every word. Life moved forward. I started taking classes again, got a better job as an assistant manager at a sporting goods store. Amanda encouraged every step, celebrated every small victory. On my 25th birthday, she threw me a surprise party with all my friends, decorating the apartment with streamers and balloons. She gave a toast that made me cry, talking about how proud our parents would be, how far I had come, how much she loved me. I thought I was the luckiest person in the world to have a sister like her, but perfection always has cracks if you look close enough. I just was not looking. I was too busy being grateful. There were small things I noticed, little inconsistencies that I brushed off at the time. Things that, looking back now, were red flags waving frantically in my face while I smiled and waved back. Sometimes mail would arrive addressed to me, official-looking envelopes with law firm names or business logos, and Amanda would intercept them before I could see what they were. "Just more estate stuff," she'd say casually. "I'll handle it." Sometimes my phone would ring from numbers I did not recognize, and when I answered, people would ask for me by name, asking about business matters or outstanding debts. I would tell them they had the wrong person, and they would insist they had the right Daniel Morrison. And I would hang up confused. When I mentioned it to Amanda, she would frown and say, "Probably identity theft attempts. It's so common now. Just ignore them and definitely don't give them any information." Once, I got a text message from someone claiming I owed them money for a business deal gone wrong. The message was threatening, talking about lawyers and legal action. My stomach dropped when I read it. I showed it to Amanda immediately, my hands shaking. She barely glanced at it before deleting the message. "Scam," she said firmly. "They spoof names from public records and try to scare people. Block the number. Don't respond." I did what she said. I always did what she said. Another time, about 18 months after moving in, I received a certified letter from the IRS. My hands were shaking when I signed for it. Inside was a notice about discrepancies in my tax returns, businesses I had supposedly not reported income from. I felt like I was going to throw up. I ran to Amanda's office, where she was working from home, thrust the letter at her with panic, clawing at my throat. She read it calmly, her face never changing expression. Then she folded it neatly and put it in her desk drawer. "This happens all the time with estate stuff," she said soothingly. "There are accounts and investments that generate paperwork, and sometimes wires get crossed. I'll have my accountant handle it. Don't worry about it." "Are you sure?" I asked. "Should not I call them? Should not I talk to someone about this?" "No," she said firmly. "That's the worst thing you could do. You'll just make it worse. Let me handle it through proper channels. That's what I do for a living, remember? Trust me." So I trusted her. And the IRS letter disappeared into her desk drawer, never to be spoken of again. There was also the time I ran into an old friend from high school at the grocery store. We chatted for a few minutes, catching up on life. He mentioned that he had tried to add me on LinkedIn but could not find my profile. I laughed and said I did not have LinkedIn. Never saw the point of it. He looked confused. "That's weird," he said. "I could have sworn I saw a Daniel Morrison who looked just like you, working as a business consultant. Had your college and everything." I brushed it off, figured it was a different Daniel Morrison. But when I got home, curiosity got the better of me, and I searched for myself on LinkedIn. And there I was. Or rather, there was someone using my name, my photo from college, claiming to be a business consultant for various companies I had never heard of. The profile had connections I did not recognize, endorsements for skills I did not have. I showed Amanda immediately. She looked at it and frowned. "Identity theft," she said without hesitation. "Report the profile. This is serious, Daniel. Someone is using your information to build a fake professional persona. I'll contact LinkedIn's fraud department, and we should probably file a police report too." She seemed so concerned, so protective. She put her arm around me and said, "I am so sorry this is happening to you. Don't worry. We'll get it taken care of." The profile was taken down within 2 days. Amanda told me she had handled everything, had reported it, had made sure it would not happen again. I thanked her profusely, so grateful to have someone looking out for me. It never occurred to me that she had created that profile herself, that she was building a professional identity for me that she could use for her schemes, that the takedown was just her covering her tracks when I accidentally discovered it. God, I was so stupid. So incredibly, painfully stupid. Then there was the night I came home early from work because I was sick with the flu. I had texted Amanda to let her know, but she must not have seen it. When I walked into the apartment, I heard her voice coming from her bedroom, talking on the phone. The door was cracked open just slightly, and I heard her say my full name followed by, "Yes, he signed everything. No, he has no idea. He's not going to be a problem. I promise you that." I froze in the hallway, my heart suddenly pounding. She said something else, too quiet for me to hear, then laughed. It was not her normal laugh. It was cold, sharp, unfamiliar. I stood there for a long moment, my stomach churning with more than just the flu. Then I heard her footsteps approaching the door, and I panicked. I quickly walked back toward the front door, opened and closed it loudly, and called out, "Amanda, I'm home." When she emerged from her bedroom, she had that warm smile back on her face, all concern and sympathy. "Oh, sweetie, you look terrible. Go lie down. I'll make you some soup." I wanted to ask her about the phone call, but something stopped me. Some instinct, some little voice in the back of my head that said asking questions might shatter something fragile. So I kept quiet and let her take care of me. Just like always, that instinct should have been louder. It should have been screaming. About 6 months after that incident, things started to feel different in a way I could not quite name. Amanda seemed distracted, always on her phone, typing furiously, and then quickly putting it away when I entered the room. She started working late more often, coming home after I had gone to bed. When I asked if everything was okay, she would smile that perfect smile and say, "Just busy season at work. Nothing to worry about." But I did worry, because the Amanda I knew, the sister who had been my rock for the past 3 years, was slowly becoming a stranger. She was there, but not there. Present in body, but absent in every other way that mattered. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday. I will never forget that. It was a perfectly ordinary Tuesday in March. I had just gotten home from work, had kicked off my shoes and was microwaving leftover pizza when I heard the knock on the door. Not a normal knock, a heavy, authoritative pounding that made my chest tighten immediately. I opened the door to find 2 police detectives standing in the hallway. Behind them, I could see uniformed officers. So many uniformed officers. The detective in front held up a badge. "Daniel Morrison?" he asked. Though his tone made it clear he already knew the answer. "Yes?" My voice came out small, confused. "You need to come with us. We have a warrant for your arrest." The words did not make sense. They were sounds, syllables, but they might as well have been in a foreign language. I stared at him, my mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. "I'm sorry, what?" "You're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit racketeering." He started reading me my rights, that familiar speech you hear in movies but never think you will hear in real life. Never think will be directed at you. I tried to speak, tried to tell them there had been a mistake, a terrible mistake, but the words would not come. My mind was spinning, trying to grab onto something solid, something real. One of the officers stepped forward with handcuffs, and the metallic click as they locked around my wrists was the most surreal sound I had ever heard. They led me out of the apartment building in handcuffs. Neighbors peeked out of doorways, their faces a mixture of shock and morbid curiosity. Someone took a photo with their phone. I wanted to scream that this was wrong, that I had not done anything, but my throat had closed up completely. At the police station, they put me in an interrogation room. The walls were beige, the table was cold metal, and there was a mirror that I knew people were watching through. Two detectives sat across from me, spreading out file folders and photographs like they were dealing cards. But these were not playing cards. These were photographs of me, except they were not really me. There I was, or someone who looked like me, standing outside buildings I had never seen, getting into cars I had never driven, sitting in restaurants I had never been to. Some of the photos were grainy, clearly taken from surveillance cameras. Others were clearer, like someone had posed for them deliberately. "Do you recognize these locations?" Detective Ramirez asked, pointing to one photo after another. I stared at them, my mind reeling. "No. I've never been to any of these places. Who is that?" "That is not me." Detective Chen leaned forward, tapping one photo in particular. "This was taken 6 months ago outside a warehouse in Newark. The warehouse was being used to store stolen goods. You standing there talking to known members of an organized crime family." "That is not me." My voice came out as a strangled shout. "I have never been to Newark. I was working at the store 6 months ago. My boss can confirm that. My time cards, my coworkers, they can all tell you I was not in Newark." They exchanged another look. Ramirez pulled out more documents. "These are emails sent from your email address," he said. "Planning meetings, discussing shipments, arranging payments. They have your signature in the body of the email. Your writing style." I read the emails. They did sound like me. The phrasing, the casual tone, even some expressions I used, but I had not written them. I would swear on anything I had not written them. "Someone is impersonating me," I said desperately. "Someone has access to my information, my accounts. They're using my identity." "That's what they all say," Chen replied coldly. The interrogation went on for hours. They showed me bank statements from accounts I did not know I had, credit cards in my name with hundreds of thousands of dollars charged to them, property deeds for real estate I had never seen, business licenses for companies I had never heard of until that moment. Every piece of evidence had my name on it, my signature, my social security number, my address. His name was Detective Ramirez, I learned. He had tired eyes and a wedding ring that looked like it had been worn for decades. Next to him sat Detective Chen, younger, sharper, looking at me like I was something unpleasant she had found on the bottom of her shoe. "Do you know why you're here, Daniel?" Ramirez finally asked after laying out what felt like 100 pieces of evidence. "No," I managed to croak out. "There's been a mistake. I haven't done anything wrong." He opened one of the folders and turned it toward me. Inside were bank statements, transaction records, names of companies I had never heard of. "These companies are registered in your name," he said. "You're listed as the owner and operator of 16 different LLCs. These companies have been involved in a sophisticated money laundering operation for the past 2.5 years." I stared at the papers like they were written in hieroglyphics. I don't know what any of this is. I've never owned any companies. The younger detective, Detective Chen, leaned forward. She had sharp eyes that seemed to cut right through me. "You signed the incorporation documents. We have your signatures. Your social security number, your address, your bank accounts were used to funnel money through shell corporations tied to organized crime. We're talking about millions of dollars, Daniel. Millions." "No," I said, shaking my head so hard it made me dizzy. "No, that's impossible. I work at a sporting goods store. I don't have millions of dollars. I don't know anything about any of this." Ramirez slid another document across the table. "This is a loan application for $500,000. It has your signature. The money was used to purchase real estate that was then used to hide assets for a criminal enterprise. Do you remember signing this?" I looked at the signature. It was mine. I could see that clearly, but I had no memory of this specific document. There had been so many documents, so many signatures over the years. Amanda had always explained them, always assured me they were routine, necessary. Amanda. The realization hit me like a physical blow. "My sister," I whispered. "Amanda. She had me sign things. She said it was for our parents' estate, for investments. She's a financial consultant. I trusted her." The detectives exchanged a look that I could not read. Chen pulled out another folder, this one even thicker. "Amanda Morrison. Your sister. Tell us about her. So I did. I told them everything. About her parents' death. About moving in with her. About all the papers she had me sign over the years. I told them about the phone calls, the strange messages. The night I heard her talking about me on the phone, I watched their faces as I spoke, desperately searching for some sign that they believed me, that they understood I was a victim here too. When I finished, Ramirez sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. We're going to need you to walk us through every document you can remember signing, every conversation you had with your sister about business matters, every detail, no matter how small. That interrogation lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of going through my memory, trying to separate one signed document from another, trying to remember dates and conversations and details that had seemed so insignificant at the time. They brought me coffee that tasted like burned rubber and sandwiches that turned to ash in my mouth. Finally, they let me make a phone call. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial Amanda's number. It rang 4 times before she picked up. Daniel? Her voice was normal, concerned. Where are you? I came home, and you weren't here. Amanda. My voice cracked on her name. I'm at the police station. They arrested me. They're saying I'm involved in money laundering and fraud and I don't understand what's happening. I need you to help me. Please. I need a lawyer. I need you to tell them this is all a mistake. There was a pause. Just a brief pause, maybe 3 seconds. But in that silence, I heard the truth. I heard it in the space between her breaths, in the moment of calculation before she spoke again. Oh my God, Daniel. I'll be right there. Don't say anything else until I get you a lawyer. Do you understand me? Don't say another word. She hung up before I could respond. I stared at the phone. That same cold feeling from the night I overheard her phone call spreading through my chest like ice water. Amanda never came to the station that night, but her lawyer did. A slick man in an expensive suit who introduced himself as Martin Chambers and immediately went into private consultation with me. Your sister hired me to represent you, he said. She's very concerned. She wants me to make sure you're protected. But as he questioned me, as he took notes on his expensive leather portfolio, I started to notice things. The way his questions seemed designed to distance Amanda from everything. The way he kept emphasizing that I had signed documents willingly, that I was an adult capable of making my own decisions. The way he never once suggested that Amanda might bear any responsibility for what was happening. He got me released on bail. The amount was staggering, but Amanda paid it, he told me. She paid it, and I could go home. Back to her apartment. Back to the place where this had all started. When I walked through that apartment door at 3 in the morning, Amanda was waiting on the couch. She stood up when she saw me, her face a perfect mask of worry and relief. She moved toward me like she was going to hug me, but I stepped back. What did you do? I asked. My voice was flat, empty. Daniel, I know you're scared and confused right now, but we're going to fight this. Martin is one of the best lawyers in the state. He's going to prove that this is all some kind of horrible mistake or misunderstanding. What did you do to me, Amanda? She reached out and took my hand. Hers was warm, soft, the same hand that had held mine at her parents' funeral. I'm going to protect you, she said. That's what family does. Family first, always, remember. I wanted to pull my hand away. I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, to shake her until the truth fell out. But I was so tired, so broken. So I let her lead me to my room, let her tuck me in like I was a child, let her smooth my hair back from my forehead. Everything is going to be okay, she whispered. I promise. Just trust me. And even then, even knowing something was deeply wrong, part of me wanted to believe her. The next few weeks were a nightmare of court appearances, legal meetings, and mounting evidence that painted me as a criminal mastermind. Every day, new details emerged. The prosecutors had transaction records showing money moving through accounts in my name. They had signed contracts, business emails supposedly sent by me, meetings I had allegedly attended. I had alibis for many of these meetings. I had been at work, and my boss confirmed it, but the prosecution argued I had partners, co-conspirators who handled day-to-day operations while I orchestrated everything from behind the scenes. My court-appointed lawyer, a public defender named Sarah Chen, was the first person who really listened to me. Martin Chambers had quietly withdrawn from my case after the arraignment, Citing a conflict of interest that was never explained, Sarah sat across from me in a dingy conference room at the courthouse and let me tell my story without interruption. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I believe you, but belief isn't going to be enough. We need to prove it." She started digging, really digging. She subpoenaed Amanda's financial records, her phone records, her work computer. At first, everything seemed clean, too clean. Amanda was careful, meticulous even. But Sarah was relentless. She found a storage unit rented in Amanda's name that Amanda had failed to disclose. When they opened it, they found boxes and boxes of documents, forged signatures, practice sheets where Amanda had clearly been learning to replicate my handwriting, burner phones with text messages discussing the businesses, the money, the operation. And then they found the hard drive, a small external drive hidden in a false bottom of one of the boxes. On that drive was everything. Spreadsheets detailing every transaction, every shell company, every forged document. There were audio recordings of Amanda on phone calls, clearly operating the businesses, giving instructions, making deals. There were photographs of her at meetings with people who were known associates of organized crime families. And there were messages, hundreds of messages between Amanda and her actual business partners. Messages that made my blood run cold. One message, dated 3 days after our parents' funeral, read, "The brother is perfect, completely lost in grief. He'll sign anything I put in front of him. Give me 6 months and I'll have everything in place." Another from a year later, "D signed the loan docs today. Didn't even read them. This is almost too easy." From 18 months after I moved in. "He's suspicious about nothing. I could have him sign his own death warrant and he'd thank me for the pen." And then, from just 3 months before my arrest, "If this goes south, the trail leads straight to him. Every document, every account, every transaction has his name on it. He's the perfect fall guy. No one will believe he didn't know." But there were others, so many others that Sarah had to stop reading them to me because I could not breathe properly. "He actually hugged me tonight and told me I was the best sister in the world." I almost felt bad. Almost. The idiot thinks the LLC paperwork is for the estate. He has no idea he just made himself the owner of a shell company we're using to launder money from the Castellano family. This is going better than I ever imagined. Met with the guys from Chicago today. They're impressed with the operation. Asked how I kept my partner so quiet. Told them my partner doesn't know he's my partner. They loved that. D asked about the IRS letter today. Had to think fast. Told him it was estate confusion. He bought it completely. Sometimes I think he wants to be lied to. Makes it easier for both of us. And perhaps the most chilling one, dated 6 months before my arrest. "If I have to, I'll cry at his trial. Play the devastated sister who had no idea her brother was a criminal. I've been practicing my shocked face in the mirror. I'll be very convincing." There were also voice memos. Amanda talking to herself, planning, strategizing. In one, recorded late at night about a year after I moved in, she said, "The beauty of this is that Daniel will never suspect me because he needs me too much. He's so desperate for family, for connection, that he'll accept any explanation I give him. His desperation is my greatest asset. His love is my cover, and when this all falls apart, his love will be his prison." Sarah showed me these messages in her office. I read them on her computer screen, my sister's words burning into my brain like acid. I had to read them 3 times before they became real. "She planned this from the beginning," Sarah said softly. "From the moment your parents died, she saw an opportunity. You were vulnerable, grieving, dependent on her. She used that." I could not speak. My throat had closed up entirely. All I could do was stare at the screen, at my sister's words, at the cold calculation in every sentence. The prosecution tried to argue that I was still complicit, that I should have known what I was signing. But with the evidence from the storage unit and the hard drive, their case fell apart. They offered me a deal, complete immunity in exchange for testifying against Amanda. I took it. What choice did I have? Amanda was arrested at her office on a Thursday afternoon. I was not there to see it, but Sarah described it to me later, and so did news reports that I watched obsessively, trying to understand how I had not seen any of this coming. The FBI walked into the financial firm where she worked, where she had built a reputation as a trusted advisor, where she sat in a corner office with a view of the city. They had a warrant and a full tactical team, apparently concerned she might run or destroy evidence. According to witnesses, Amanda was in a meeting with a client when they arrived. The agents waited until the meeting concluded, professional to the end. When Amanda walked out of the conference room, they were waiting in the hallway. She saw them and, for just a moment, her face showed something. Not fear, not surprise, almost like relief. Like she had been waiting for this moment and was glad it had finally arrived. They arrested her in front of 23 colleagues, including her boss, 2 senior partners, and an intern who had started just that week. They read her rights while co-workers peeked out of offices and cubicles. They walked her out in handcuffs while everyone watched, some recording it on their phones. One video made it onto the news. I watched it over and over, studying Amanda's face. She was not crying. She was not protesting. She was walking with her head up, her expression calm, almost serene, like she was going to lunch instead of jail. Her co-workers gave statements later, in the course of the investigation. Most of them were shocked. She was so professional, one said, so trustworthy. Clients loved her. But one person, a senior analyst named Jennifer Chen, said something that stuck with me. There was always something off about her. Nothing you could put your finger on, but sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, her face would go completely blank. Like she was a robot powering down. It only lasted a second, but once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Her trial lasted 3 months. 3 months of sitting in that courtroom, watching my sister's mask slip further and further off. I had to testify. I had to sit on that witness stand and recount every time she had betrayed me, every document she had me sign, every lie she had told. The prosecution walked me through years of my life, moment by moment, signature by signature. They asked me to identify my handwriting on hundreds of documents. They asked me to recount conversations, to describe how Amanda had explained each paper I signed. The defense attorney tried to break me on cross-examination. He implied I was lying to save myself. He suggested I had known all along what was happening and was now playing the victim. He held up documents and asked me if that was really my signature, if I really expected the jury to believe I had signed something without reading it, if I really was that stupid or just thought they were. I broke down twice on the stand. Once when they showed me the birthday video Amanda had taken, where she gave that toast about how proud our parents would be. The prosecutor played it for the jury, then asked me, "Did you believe her when she said this?" I could not answer. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. The second time was when they played one of the voice memos. Amanda's voice filled the courtroom, cold and calculating, talking about how easy it was to manipulate me, how perfect I was as a fall guy. I had to listen to my sister describe in detail how she had exploited my grief, my trust, my love. When it ended, the courtroom was silent. Even the defense attorney looked uncomfortable. The entire time, Amanda sat at the defense table, looking at me with an expression I could not read. Not angry, not apologetic, not even particularly interested, just blank. As if I was a stranger she was only mildly curious about. Like I was a problem she was watching someone else solve. Once, during a break, we were both in the hallway at the same time, waiting to be called back in. She was handcuffed, flanked by marshals. I was standing with Sarah, trying to compose myself after a particularly brutal cross-examination. Our eyes met across the hallway. I waited for something. Anything. An apology. An explanation. Remorse. Anger. Recognition of what she had done to me. She smiled. It was small, barely noticeable, but it was there. A tiny smile, there and gone in an instant, and then she looked away, like I was not even worth maintaining eye contact with. The evidence was overwhelming. The messages, the recordings, the documents in her handwriting. Her own lawyer could barely mount a defense. The prosecution presented a clear timeline of how Amanda had started planning this within days of our parents' death, how she had cultivated my dependence, had positioned herself as my protector while she was actually building an elaborate framework to destroy me. They presented evidence that went even further back, emails on her personal computer showing she had been involved in financial schemes before our parents died, smaller operations, learning the trade. Our parents' death had simply provided her with the perfect tool, the perfect victim. Me. The prosecutor called it one of the most elaborate and cruel cases of identity theft and financial fraud she had ever seen. The defendant didn't just steal from her brother. she said in her closing argument. She stole his entire identity, his reputation, his future. She took a grieving young man who trusted her completely and turned him into her own personal scapegoat. And she did it all while pretending to love him, to care for him, to protect him. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, Amanda was found guilty on all counts: wire fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, identity theft, conspiracy to commit racketeering, and a dozen other charges I could barely keep track of. At sentencing, the judge was scathing. "Ms. Morrison," he said, looking at my sister with undisguised disgust, "you exploited your own brother at his most vulnerable moment. You took his grief and his trust and weaponized them. You built an intricate criminal enterprise using his identity, knowing that if you were caught, he would take the fall. This court finds your actions not only criminal, but morally reprehensible." He sentenced her to 35 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. When the gavel came down, I felt nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction, not even anger. Just a vast, empty numbness. Amanda showed no emotion as they led her away. She did not look at me. She did not cry. She simply stood, allowed them to handcuff her, and walked out of the courtroom like she was leaving a business meeting. That was 2 years ago. I spent the time in between rebuilding my life or trying to. Trying being the key word, because some things cannot be rebuilt. Some things, once broken, stay broken no matter how carefully you try to piece them back together. The charges against me were dismissed, my record expunged. But you cannot erase what people remember. You cannot erase the Google results that still pop up when someone searches my name, even though the articles now say I was the victim, not the perpetrator. You cannot erase the suspicion in people's eyes when I tell them my story. The unspoken question of whether I really did not know anything. Potential employers would Google my name and find articles about the case, about the arrest, and suddenly the job I was interviewing for would no longer be available. It would be phrased politely. They went with another candidate. They decided to restructure the position. They're putting hiring on hold for budget reasons. But I knew the truth. No one wants to hire someone whose name is linked to federal crimes, even if they were the victim. I applied for 63 jobs in the first year after the trial. 63. I got 2 interviews, no offers. I worked temp jobs, retail positions that did not require background checks beyond basic criminal records. I worked as a stockroom clerk at a department store, as a night janitor at an office building, as a delivery driver for a pizza place. Jobs where no one asked too many questions. Jobs where I could fade into the background and just exist. I go to therapy twice a week. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Patricia Reeves, has helped me work through the trauma, the betrayal, the complicated grief of losing a sister who was never really the person I thought she was. In our first session, she asked me what I was feeling. I sat there for 10 minutes, unable to answer, because the truth was, I did not know. I felt everything and nothing. Rage and numbness, grief and relief, shame and innocence. It was all tangled together, knotted so tightly I could not separate one emotion from another. "You're grieving multiple losses at once," Dr. Reeves explained. "You're grieving the sister you thought you had. You're grieving the 3 years she stole from you. You're grieving your sense of safety and trust. You're grieving the person you were before all this happened. That's a lot of grief for one person to carry." She was right. But knowing that did not make it easier. Some days I wake up angry, so angry I can barely function. Angry at Amanda for doing this, angry at myself for not seeing it, angry at the universe for letting someone like her exist in the first place. Other days, I just feel sad. A deep, bone-level sadness that makes everything feel heavy and pointless. On those days, getting out of bed feels like moving through concrete. Making breakfast feels impossible. Existing feels like too much work. And some days, the worst days, I feel nothing at all, just empty, like Amanda hollowed me out, and there is nothing left inside except echoes. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night, my heart racing, convinced I hear police at my door. The knock from that Tuesday night is burned into my brain. Heavy, authoritative, life-changing. Sometimes in my dreams I answer the door and it is not the police. It is Amanda, smiling that perfect smile, telling me she just needs one more signature, just one more, and I wake up gasping, tangled in sheets soaked with sweat. Sometimes I find myself unable to sign even the most basic documents, my hand freezing over the signature line, panic clawing at my throat. My landlord had to watch me have a panic attack when I tried to sign my apartment lease. I stood there with the pen in my hand, trembling, unable to make my hand move, while he watched with growing concern. Finally, I had to excuse myself, go outside, call Dr. Reeves, and have her talk me through it before I could go back inside and sign my own lease. Sometimes I see someone who looks like Amanda on the street, and my entire body locks up. My vision tunnels, my chest tightens. I cannot move until the person walks past and I can see they are not her. Once, I saw a woman in a coffee shop who had the same hair color, the same build, the same way of holding her phone while she typed. I left my coffee on the counter and walked out. Could not go back to that coffee shop for 6 months. I have nightmares at least 3 times a week. Sometimes they are memories, perfect recreations of real moments that I now see with new eyes. Amanda tucking me in, but in the dream I can see her taking notes about my vulnerabilities. Amanda cooking dinner, but the food tastes like poison. Amanda hugging me after I came home crying about a bad day at work, but her arms feel like a trap closing around me. Other nightmares are worse. In one recurring dream, I am signing papers at that kitchen table, and with each signature, the room gets smaller. The walls close in. Amanda keeps handing me more papers, more and more, and I cannot stop signing. And the room gets smaller and smaller until I am trapped in a box, buried alive under documents that all have my name on them. I wake up from those dreams, and I have to check every lock in my apartment, have to turn on all the lights, have to remind myself that I am safe now, that she is in prison, that she cannot hurt me anymore. But the rational part of my brain and the traumatized part do not always communicate well. The traumatized part does not care that she is locked up. The traumatized part knows that she got to me once, completely. And if someone can fool you that thoroughly, how do you ever trust your own judgment again? The money that was stolen was eventually recovered, most of it. The government seized accounts and assets and went after the criminal organizations that had been using Amanda's shell companies. I received a settlement, enough to start over, to find my own apartment, to build a life that does not have her shadow hanging over it. But here is the thing they do not tell you about this kind of betrayal. The physical recovery is the easy part. You can clear your name. You can get your money back. You can move forward with your life in all the tangible ways. It is the invisible scars that never heal. I do not trust anyone anymore. Not completely. Not the way I trusted Amanda. There is always a part of me, a small voice in the back of my head, that wonders what people really want from me, what they are planning, what they might be hiding behind their smiles and their kindness. I tried dating about a year after the trial. Met a woman named Rachel at a support group for people dealing with family trauma. She was kind, patient, understood why I was jumpy and paranoid. We went on 3 dates. On the 4th date, she needed to use my phone to call a cab because hers was dead. Such a simple, ordinary request. But I could not do it. I could not hand her my phone. What if she was looking through my accounts? What if she was taking screenshots of my information? What if she was just like Amanda, playing a long game, being patient, waiting for me to trust her so she could destroy me? I know that sounds insane. Rachel was not Amanda, but my brain cannot tell the difference anymore between reasonable caution and paranoid delusion. So I made up an excuse, said my phone was also dead, and called her a cab from a payphone we found 2 blocks away. She knew something was wrong. She tried to talk to me about it, tried to understand. But how do you explain to someone that you cannot perform the basic acts of trust that normal relationships require? How do you say, I want to trust you, but my sister made me sign away my life while pretending to love me, so now I assume everyone is secretly planning my destruction? We stopped seeing each other after that. She said she understood, that she hoped I would heal, that I deserved happiness. She was so kind about it, and that kindness made it worse somehow, because Amanda had been kind too. The cruelest people often are. I have a friend now, just one. His name is Marcus, and I met him through Dr. Reeves. He is another one of her clients that we met at a community event she organized, not in therapy. Marcus's brother stole his identity and destroyed his credit, though on a much smaller scale than what Amanda did to me. He understands. We meet for coffee sometimes, sit in silence, and that silence is comfortable. because we both know what it means to be betrayed by family. Sometimes we talk about what happened. Sometimes we do not. Sometimes Marcus will just text me at 2 in the morning, "You up?" And I will respond, "Yeah." And we will both know that we are having the same kind of night, the kind where the past is too heavy and sleep is impossible. That silent understanding is the closest thing I have to friendship now. My parents' deaths destroyed me. Amanda's betrayal destroyed what was left. But here is what no one tells you about this kind of trauma. It does not destroy you all at once. It is not like a building collapsing. It is like erosion, slow, constant, wearing you away particle by particle, until one day you look at yourself and realize you are not the same person anymore. The shape is similar, but the substance is different. Changed, diminished. I think about Amanda every single day. Not because I miss her, not because I love her, but because I cannot stop trying to understand. When did she decide to do this? Was there ever a moment when she actually cared about me? Or was I always just a tool to her? When she hugged me after our parents' funeral? When she held me while I cried? When she celebrated my birthday and cooked my favorite meals? Was any of that real? Or was it all just part of the performance? Part of building the trust she needed to destroy me? I got a letter from her 6 months ago. The prison forwarded it to my lawyer, and my lawyer asked if I wanted to read it. I said no at first. My immediate reaction, pure refusal. I wanted nothing from her, not even words on paper. Then I spent 3 days unable to think about anything else. What had she written? Was it an apology? An explanation? More manipulation? The not knowing ate at me worse than reading it could. Finally, I told Sarah to send it. The letter was 2 pages long, written in Amanda's neat, precise handwriting. The same handwriting I had seen on birthday cards and grocery lists, and the notes she left on the bathroom mirror. Seeing it again made me feel physically ill. She did not apologize. Not once. Not even a false apology. Not even a manipulation disguised as remorse. Instead, she explained. She talked about how our parents had always loved me more. How I was the baby, the one they coddled and protected, while she had to be the responsible one, the successful one, the one who made them proud. She talked about how she had worked so hard to build a successful career, while I coasted through life with no direction, no ambition, no purpose. She said she had deserved the money, deserved the success, and I had simply been in the right place at the right time to be useful. She wrote, "You were a resource that became available when Mom and Dad died. Any good business person knows you use the resources you have access to." It wasn't personal, Daniel. It was practical. It was not personal. 4 years of systematic betrayal, and it was not personal. The last paragraph is burned into my memory. I can recite it word for word, though I wish I could forget it. "You always needed me, Daniel. Even before Mom and Dad died, you were helpless. You called me when your car broke down. You asked my advice on every major decision. You needed someone to depend on, and I was happy to be that person. I just took advantage of what was already there. Don't pretend you weren't complicit in your own ignorance. You never questioned anything. You never wanted to know. You just wanted someone to take care of you. So I did. I took care of everything. And if you had been smarter, less trusting, less pathetically grateful for basic human kindness, none of this would have worked. So really, when you think about it, we were partners in this. You made it possible. I just executed the plan. I burned that letter in my kitchen sink, watched the paper curl and blacken, watched her words turn to ash. I lit it with a match and watched it burn, feeling nothing, feeling everything. The smoke detector went off. My neighbors knocked on the door to make sure I was okay. I told them I was fine. Just burned some food, everything was under control. But I can still see every line, every justification, every cold calculation. The physical letter is gone, but the words are etched into my brain, playing on repeat during sleepless nights. The worst part is not the years I lost clearing my name. It is not the money that was stolen or the reputation that was damaged. It is not even the criminal record that almost destroyed my future. The worst part is knowing that the person who tucked me in at night, who held my hand when I cried, who smiled at me across the breakfast table, was quietly building the cage meant for me. And she did it with patience, with precision, with a long-term plan that spanned years. She knew me better than anyone else in the world. She knew exactly how to manipulate me, how to keep me dependent, how to make me trust her completely. and she used that knowledge to systematically destroy my life while making me believe she was saving it. Every signature I gave her was another bar on the cage. Every time I said thank you was another lock clicking into place. Every moment I felt grateful for her help was another step toward my own destruction. And the truly terrifying thing is this. If she had not gotten greedy, if she had not expanded the operation to the point where federal agencies got involved, I never would have known. I would have walked into that cage willingly, would have locked the door behind me, and I would have thanked her for the key. I think about other people who might be in my situation right now. People who trust someone completely, who sign documents without reading them, who believe that family always has their best interests at heart. I think about how many Amandas are out there, watching and waiting, looking for the perfect victim. Trust is supposed to be the foundation of family, of love, of human connection, but trust is also the weapon that causes the deepest wounds. Because you cannot betray someone who never trusted you in the first place. I am 30 years old now. I have a small apartment, a decent job working in accounting ironically enough, and a therapist I see regularly. I am building a life. I am moving forward. But I will never be the person I was before. That Daniel died the moment those handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The person I am now is harder, warrior, fundamentally changed in ways I am still discovering. Sometimes people ask me if I ever visit Amanda in prison. The answer is no. I will never see her again, because there is no closure to be found there. No explanation that will ever make sense of what she did. No apology that could ever be sufficient. She took 3 years of my life and tried to take the rest of it. She turned my name into a lie, my identity into a weapon against myself. She did it methodically, patiently, with a level of cruelty that still takes my breath away when I think about it too long. And she did it all while telling me she loved me, while acting like the person I could depend on most in the world. While being my family. Family first, always. That is what she used to say. And I guess, in her own twisted way, she meant it. She put herself first, always. And I was just family, which meant I was nothing more than a resource to be used, a tool to be exploited, a fall guy waiting to take the blame. I share my story now because I want people to understand something important. Evil does not always look like a stranger in a dark alley. Sometimes it looks like your sister making you breakfast. Sometimes it sounds like, I have got you. You are not alone. Sometimes it feels like the safest place in the world until the moment you realize you have been locked in a cage the entire time. And the person holding the key is the same one who built the walls around you. If there is one thing I want you to take away from this, it is this. Pay attention to what people do, not just what they say. Read what you sign. Ask questions. Trust, but verify. Because the person who seems too good to be true might actually be too good to be true. And if someone insists that you do not need to worry, that they will handle everything, that you should just trust them completely, that is when you need to worry most of all. Because sometimes the people who hurt us most are not the ones who hate us. They are the ones we love, the ones we trust, the ones we would never suspect until it is far too late. Amanda is in prison now, and she will be for a very long time. She will be 60 years old before she is even eligible for parole, and even then, she probably will never get out. The crimes were too severe, the betrayal too calculated, the damage too extensive. But I am the one serving a life sentence, not behind bars, but behind walls of suspicion and fear that I am not sure will ever come down. I am the one who has to live every day knowing that the person I loved most in the world saw me as nothing more than a convenient patsy, a useful idiot, a perfect victim. That knowledge does not fade. It does not get easier. It just becomes part of who you are. A scar that aches when the weather changes. A wound that heals wrong and leaves you permanently altered. So yes, I survived. I cleared my name. I rebuilt my life. But I did not win. Because you do not win when your sister tries to destroy you. You just survive, and you learn to live with the pieces of yourself that can never be put back together quite right. The person who tucked me in at night was building my prison cell, and I will never stop wondering if I could have seen it coming. If there were signs I missed. If I should have known. But that is the thing about people like Amanda. They are experts at hiding in plain sight. They know how to make you feel safe right up until the moment they pull the trap. They know that the best place to hide is in the light. behind a smile wrapped in the language of love and family and protection. And by the time you realize what is happening, you have already handed them everything they need to destroy you, including your complete and total trust. That is the real horror of my story, not the arrest, not the trial, not even the betrayal itself. It is the realization that I participated in my own destruction, that every time I signed my name, every time I said thank you, every time I felt grateful for her help, I was building my own cage one bar at a time. And she knew it. She counted on it. She planned for it. That is what keeps me awake at night. Not what she did, but how easily she did it. How perfectly she played her role. How completely I fell for it. I want to believe that I will learn to trust again someday. That I will meet people who are genuinely kind, genuinely helpful, genuinely caring. That not everyone is a predator looking for prey. But right now, today, all I can think is how the person who said family first always actually meant herself first, always. And I was too blind, too grateful, too trusting to see it until it was far too late. So if you take anything from my story, take this. The people who hurt us most are not always strangers. Sometimes they are the ones who know us best. The ones who know exactly where to strike to cause the most damage. The ones who have all the access, all the trust, all the opportunity they need to destroy us from the inside out. And sometimes, the cage we find ourselves in was built with our own hands, by someone we loved, using materials we freely provided. That is the real nightmare. That is the truth I live with every day. The person who hugged me at night was quietly building the cage meant for me. And I helped her do it with a smile on my face and gratitude in my heart. And that, more than anything else, is the part I will never be able to forgive. Not her, but myself. For being so blind. For trusting so completely. For never asking the questions I should have asked. But I am learning to live with it, one day at a time. One signature I refuse to give. One relationship I cautiously build. One small step toward becoming a person who can trust again, even if I never trust the way I used to. Because Amanda did not just steal my money, or my identity, or those years of my life. She stole my ability to believe that people can be good without ulterior motives. She stole my innocence, my faith in family, my fundamental belief that love means safety, and that is the theft I am still trying to recover from. That is the wound that still bleeds when I am not paying attention. But I am here. I am alive. I am rebuilding. And that has to be enough, because the alternative is letting her win completely. And I refuse to give her that satisfaction. So, I move forward. Into an uncertain future, with walls around my heart that did not used to be there. With questions I ask that I never would have thought to ask before. With a weariness that feels like wisdom and exhaustion in equal measure. And every night before I go to sleep in my own apartment that I rent with my own money under my own name, I lock every door, I check every window, and I remind myself that I am safe now, even if I do not quite believe it yet. Even if I never quite believe it again.